All right, we've got our products being added in the background with jobs. Our data is rendering pretty rich and looking pretty good. Automatically going to Amazon, getting that data, saving it to a product, and displaying in a stack that is relative to a given user. So as always, you can create a new stack and continue the process. We will build the sharing functionality at the very end here, but I want to show you next how in the last video, it was not automatically appending a new product to the list here. And that's something I found pretty annoying, and I find it would be with obviously the cool Turbo framework we have now in our arsenal, a good thing to go over. So let's go ahead and add that to the stack now. We are going to need to reconfigure our show view for the stacks. So this list below will still render this, but I want to do a few things to optimize it for Turbo. And that's going to first start with our count. I'm going to add a count for our products. So I'll say Turbo frame tag, products count. This needs to be unique too, and I'll use the stack ID to make it so. And we'll make that a do block actually. So inside there, we'll render a partial. It's easier to render a partial in this case because we're going to actually need to update the background job that we added to include it. And there's not really a great way to do that within Ruby. That's not without, funky looking code. So what I'll do is just make a partial. It's a lot easier. So we'll say stack product count, and we'll pass the stack down. Inside that will be a simple count of our products. So we'll say stack product count will be in the stacks folder in our views folder. And I'll go and show you what's in there. It's just an H3 class or H3 tag with a class of PT6 H4 class. I make these dynamic classes based on the heading. So you can add the style. It's kind of like Bootstrap. They do this. So you can add like the H4 style to an H1 tag or something if you wanted. But what we'll do is say pluralize stack.products.size. Probably not super performant, but for the sake of this exercise, we'll keep it as such. And I'll just keep it a singular product to show. So that should still render, just what we want. With the Turbo frame tag, though, that gives us a place to dynamically find it with Turbo coming up. All right, one extra thing we'll want to do is stream updates. And this is going to hook into action cables. So when the thing happens, we'll use WebSockets in the background to actually listen for changes. When they do happen, the page can update. So we definitely need this, and we'll use the stack instance to make sure that's where we know we're streaming from. And then finally, we'll wrap a Turbo frame tag here. We'll say product list and then say stack ID, much like the count above. You could also do DOM ID. There's like a little helper for that. I didn't do it this way that time or this time. Let's go and render will be another partial. This is my only nitpick of Turbo is you have to create a ton of partials for stuff. It's kind of like, eh. All right. So we'll basically copy this and we'll make a product list underscore on the beginning. Save that down, paste this in. We're going to actually make it a local variable instead of this instance variable. And I believe that's it. You'll see why we need that in a second. So when I go back to, well, I have to type stream, right? When I go back to my stack page, we have all this rendering fine, which is good. Definitely something you want to make sure is the case. And then back in our background job is where the magic's going to happen. So let's go there. into our jobs, product import job. At the very bottom of the perform statement, we're going to add some code that does Turbostreams. Well, let's make it a private class, actually. We'll just utilize it in a different way. We'll say def broadcast turbo stream stack product. And we're going to hook in the turbo class of the turbo rails gem and broadcast replace 2 and pass in some options here. So we're going to pass in our stack since that's how we're identifying it. And then our target element will be product list, if you recall, underscore stack ID. And partial, again, this is why we made the partial. It's easier. Say stacks product list. Then finally, pass our local variables. So we'll say locals stack. So we have 2 turbo frame tags, and what would be cool is to be, just like pass multiple instances here, but instead I'm going to actually call this twice to do the count as well. It might be a better way to do this, but it is what it is. So I'm going to update this, and then I want to update this list independently. They're 2 different things. So I'll go to the stack again. We'll do products count instead, and then we'll get a different partial. So we'll say stacks product count. Probably could have just called that product count, but it's okay. And we'll again pass the stack through. And then at the very end of our job here on the perform action, we'll come up and say broadcast turbo stream, and then pass in our stack and product like we've been doing with everything else. We've got our stack defined here. Our product is already made in either scenario here. It could be, well, crap, could it be the existing product? So let's figure this out. What should that be? Existing products, we could say, I don't know what to call it. Should probably be something good. So imported job, imported product equals this. Let's see if that works. That gives us a way to just save it as nil for now. I don't love that, but let's see. That gives us either route. So if there's an existing product, we'll add it. If there is a product, we will add it. Does that make sense? Yeah, because this is all relative to the stack. Okay, so let's see if this works. It might error out on us. It's okay if it does. Get a different protein. Let's look at our logs. Streaming from, there it goes. See, added it. So that's great. I'm going to add that again and see if it adds it. Yeah, it adds it real fast. So you can add the same item to your stack twice. I don't know if I'd want that to happen, but it isn't a big deal, I guess, if you wanted to. That's a implementation detail you could add if you want to prohibit that. And then what else? We got this second stack. Add that. Since the product already exists, it updates real fast in that regard. So I think I have this misspelled. Products count. Yeah, that didn't update real quick. So let me use Jocko stuff. Once it gets added, it updates everything. So great. So that's working wonderfully. That was the whole goal of that. On this view, you could do an if statement just to see if there's a description or not. Something worth checking into. But that essentially is our app. So the next part, I do want to go over some tests. So we can finish up with that, and then I'll call this build complete. All right, I'll see you in the next one.